Hey guys, this is Nate with BleepinJeep. As you saw in our last episode, or the one before, we ran into a couple of problems when it comes to starting and running and driving our truck. So I've been doing research, running the numbers, whatnot, and I've came up with some solutions. So let's get started on this thing, and hopefully in this episode we can actually hear it idle. Replacement tanks are not widely available. The older versions of this truck, I think like 81 and older, have a different style tank. From what I could see on forums and whatnot, it's because of like offset rear end or something like that. I don't want to say it's in high demand, but there are a lot of people running into this problem with it cracking and they can't find a replacement. The replacement that I found was like 400 bucks. I said, no way, I'm either gonna build one or do a fuel cell. So fuel cell's faster. I got on eBay, 150 bucks, shipped to your door. You've got a fuel cell, even with sending unit to tell you what the fuel level is and whatnot. It's pretty slim. It's not ideal, but I'm gonna anchor this to the bed of the truck, and this is what we're gonna use. As you can see, there are 3 ports on top. One is gonna be fuel supply, one is fuel return, the other one is a vent with a rollover valve in it. I'm going to drill a hole through right here, and then we are going to finish up running our fuel lines to our tank. So we have one feed, one return. I drilled our hole going through. I'm not going to let this rubber just sit here and contact a big vibrating diesel truck. So I've got this stuff that I use for a lot of wiring that you can use. It's like a braided protector that you can put things like fuel lines or wire in, and it helps protect it. So I'm going to go ahead and sleeve this real quick. Now I'll usually take the torch and I'll melt the frayed ends so they don't continue to expand over time. Now each line is going to get some shrink wrap to keep the end from fraying, and then I'm going to line up a piece of shrink wrap right where the hole penetrates the bed to give it an extra layer of protection. Anybody else think it's really satisfying to watch shrink wrap shrink? There's something about it, but for some reason when I see the heat hit it and I watch it shrink up, it's very satisfying. Just finished up routing our fuel lines. I think it turned out good. It's clean, it's out of the way. Well, I guess as out of the way as it can be in a truck bed. And I connected everything underneath. We should be pretty well protected against any kind of rubbing and stuff through this hole. There's a gap here because I plan on relocating the battery to the front of the bed to free up a little extra space in the engine bay. So here's how this is going to go down. I'm going to connect this to the fuel filter. This is going to kind of act as a nice little buffer in case I'm not paying attention. And then I'm going to pump the Mighty Vac. It's going to hopefully suck the fuel up the pickup, through the lines, and up to the engine. There it is. That worked way faster than I thought it would. Well, there's some. It's a meeky looking diesel. This is the stuff that was left over in that Mercedes. But I bet it works. In fact, I've heard it work. So let's hook this up to the engine. Start turning it over. Now that we have our fuel primed, we should be able to start it. I went ahead and plugged in our glow plug relay. So all I should have to do is take this wire, see how it's jumping it? So that if we take this wire and we hold it on there until we hear the relay click off. It's idling really well, actually. it is smoky in here. Next thing on the docket, we're gonna build some throttle linkage. So to simplify things, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna build what's called a throttle rotor, and it'll take place of this, and then I'm gonna build a bracket off the back of it that I can slide the backside of this cable into. So to get started on our throttle rotor, what I'm envisioning, basically we're trying to create like a circle. It doesn't have to be a circle, but we're trying to create something that kind of, it spins on a center axis. So I'm looking at this thinking, hey, good, look, we've got a center axis going on here. Maybe we'll just use this to hole saw a chunk of material, and then we can make our throttle rotor out of that. So I've got some of this. This is pretty thick. It's like 1/2 inch or better. So what I think I'm going to do is drill it out with that, and then I'm going to tap and use some of this generic, these like linkage ends. Then on the other side we've got, let's see, I've got some of this other stuff from a kit I bought previously. Oh yeah, so this is from a carbureted car. On one side we're going to have this tied into that throttle rotor, and that's going to basically make it to where we can use our accelerator pedal on this side. Then on the other side we're trying to mimic this type of like cup and ball connection. Washer on, put our throttle rotor on, a little spacer, and there's just enough room for a retaining clip. It actually is like a perfect fit. Got our linkage hooked up. You can kind of see what we're going for. What's next is going to be anchoring the backside of this cable. And I saved a piece, saved many pieces in fact, from the Mercedes. And this looks like it's going to be pretty similar to what we need. So I'm going to start modifying this and hopefully figure out a way to maybe anchor it on one of these bolts. We'll figure something out. Here's the bracket we've been working on to secure the backside of this cable. So now what I think I'm going to need to do, because there's not enough room coming out of the firewall, and this isn't going to mount up the way I'd like it to, I think we're just going to build an aluminum plate to kind of go between the bottom of these bolts and the bottom of this bracket. I've got this little support bracket mounted, so now I need to figure out where it's going to work in relation to how it's going to hook to our cable. So I'm going to sit here and play with this for a couple minutes, drill some holes, and hopefully we'll have it all buttoned up. I think this is pretty much done, I hope anyway. We'll see once it's actually running, driving down the road, but it seems to, I can still stop the engine right here, and it the pedal seems to be adjusted perfect. Right now the pedal's all the way up, then as you push it down, that's all the way down. So I think what I'll do is move on to the next thing. One thing of note, I did use Loctite on all the bolts. If you've owned a diesel before, you know how important red Loctite is. So you can still break it all loose later, but it makes it to where it doesn't just rattle apart on you, especially on a older diesel like this. It's a little extra rattly compared to the new stuff. Next on the agenda, so I'm going to try to place this power steering pump. This is the power steering pump that came with the 4.2 liter that was in the truck initially. I'd like to adapt this power steering pump to this engine for a couple of reasons. Main two rather, being that this is a pretty common style pump. So if I needed to upgrade it down the road, real easy. There's lots of information about them. Another thing too is that the power steering lines that are on this, if I can get those to work with this engine, that means I don't need to buy power steering lines. I can just use the OEM ones that came with the truck, and I like that a lot too. I use something flat, like this is a 4-foot level, and I'll go on the front right here, and then I can kind of hold this in place and see how far back I'm going to need to take it. And this needs to go back quite a bit, which is why I know that I need to remove this bracket. I can't just build off of it. I wish it was that simple, but unfortunately I'll just have to remove this, kind of float the pump around, and then I guess I'll just start cutting steel, drilling holes, and trying to figure out, or aluminum, I haven't figured it out yet, but just start trying to figure out how to mount this pump. Well, I removed the other bracket, and I want to try and take advantage of this small chunk of bracket that was on the Jeep to begin with. When I put that straight edge on the front, it puts us somewhere around here. So I think I'm going to do is, if you can see, there's 2 holes up here going into iron, 2 holes down here going into iron. Those are going to be really good solid mounting points to build the base of this bracket off of. Figured it out. Got this the way I want it. I did a root pass on a couple of these welds, and I'll do a filler pass when I'm welding on this 1/2-inch plate. 1/2 inch could be overkill. I don't know. I know I don't want this thing to move and wiggle on me. I want it to be really stout. So there she is. So basically, this is the front of the motor. This is going to be facing out. And then this is the back of our pump. This right here, this pre-threaded spot, is going to be the pivot point for this pump. I marked parts to drill right here, and I put a punch mark in there. So I'm going to go and I'm going to drill these out. I'm going to have to tap this lower bolt, which will make it easier for this. And then the other one's going to be a through hole and will be bolted through from the back side. So not as complicated as I was thinking, and I like simple. So I'm going to go ahead and drill these out and then start welding this all together. Got everything prepped. It's just about ready to go. Got a little bit of wiping down, make sure I get all the cutting oil and stuff off of it, but I ground everything where it needs to be. I'm going to use a chunk of steel to keep things flat. Got a couple pretty big gaps to fill here and there, so I'll be doing a root pass and then a filler. I temporarily bolted this up just to see how it fit before I do a final burn in. It looks like everything works. Pivots just like it's supposed to. Everything fit from the back. The threads that we put in this seem to be good. Now, I guess the final check to make sure everything fits correctly is going to be push this flat against our crank pulley. Ooh, man, that's close. Super close. I bet once we tighten this up completely, it's going to be just about what we need. And I haven't messed around with crank pulleys like this. Might actually be able to push the pulley in just a hair, just to compensate if we need to. So I'm going to finish welding all this together, let it cool, and then go from there. It's all mounted, ready to go, almost. So there's a few more things that I want to do, of course, to wrap this up. I don't have enough time for it today, but I did get the power steering pump mounted. Got a number of other things done, as you guys saw. So this is as far as this video is going to take us. It looks like we're lined up just about right where we need to be on this pulley, and then I'm going to figure out a way to add some sort of a bracket or something coming out of the back of this and tying into it. The shop light gods have not been nice to me. The light that I just installed like a month ago just went out all of a sudden, but luckily I did get a light for the top of the camera, which seems to be helping a little bit. So bear with me as I return the new lights and get more installed. Well, that's it for today. It was a lot of work. I'm hot and tired, but I'm pretty satisfied with how far we got. I think there's obviously a lot more to do before I can go drive it, and I'm just as excited as you are for that. You know, we're going as quick as we can. I'm still working on other projects. I've got the TJ over there. I'm trying to film wheeling videos. It's all a whole lot. Plus, I still have a full-time job, so it's hard to keep up on all this stuff. Anyway, make sure you click like. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. There's a whole bunch more content to come, and we'll see you guys next time.